On November 10, 2009, the DC sniper John Allen Muhammad rose from his prison cot for one last time. His movement steady and measured not of a man fighting fate, but one who had already surrendered to it. In a matter of hours, the Gulf War veteran and expert marksman who once turned Washington D.C. into a hunting ground would be executed at Greensville Correctional Center in Jarrett, Virginia. Watched by the families he shattered for 3 weeks in 2002. He and his teenage accomplice, Lee Boyd Malvo, terrorized the nation with a rifle, killing 10 people at random. Firing from the trunk of a modified Chevrolet Caprice, they struck without warning and disappeared just as quickly. Don't say anything, just listen. We're the people causing the killing in your area. By early afternoon, John Allen Muhammad sat with his family for the last time. Their conversation was brief, stripped of the weighty last words that often mark such moments. Among them was his son, Lindbergh Williams, a man who would come not to forgive, condemn, but simply to understand. For 2 hours, father and son faced each other across the sterile walls of death row, locked in silence. We stood there and just looked at each other for about, I want to say, a good 3 minutes. No words said, no anything. Williams later recalled, it was a meeting between two strangers, bound by blood, but little else. And yet, as they sat across from each other, they couldn't ignore the resemblance. I think we both were doing the same thing. Like, that's my nose, you have ears. So we were both checking each other out, Williams admitted. Muhammad had spent years shaping Malvo into a killer, but he hadn't been a father to Williams for a very long time. Now, with only few hours left, his son gave him the chance to bridge the gap. We only have a couple of more hours before I would never be able to talk you again. He told Muhammad, is there anything you want to tell me? A story from when you were my age? Something you need to get off your chest? But Muhammad had nothing left to say. For Williams, the visit was a final attempt to connect with the father he never truly knew. But even in death, Muhammad remained an enigma. Williams doesn't share his father's name, but back home in Baton Rouge, he carries the weight of it nonetheless. In the neighborhood where his father grew up, he's known as Little John. When I walk to the corner stores, I get, hey Little John, I get it all the time, he said. I can't deny it. As the final meetings concluded, John Allen Muhammad sat with his attorneys one last time, but there was little left to discuss. The previous day, his final appeal had been denied by the US Supreme Court, and Virginia Governor Tim Kaine had refused to grant clemency. There would be no last-minute reprieve. I think crimes that are this horrible, you just can't understand them. You can't explain them, Kaine stated. They completely dwarf your ability to look into the life of a person who would do something like this and understand why. Muhammad remained unchanged, calm, quiet, and resolute. To the end, he remained convinced that his prosecution was a racist plot against him, refusing to accept the court's ruling as justice. Under Virginia law, he had the right to choose his method of execution, lethal injection, or the electric chair. He chose neither. By default, the state decided for him. The sentence would be carried out by needle, swift, and clinical. The last decision no longer his to make. To those around him, Muhammad seemed unshaken. His attorneys later described him as fearless. He is absolutely unafraid. And he will die with dignity. Dignity to the point of defiance. No remorse, no last words of regret. Just the certainty what was coming. The clock moved forward, indifferent and unburdened, just as he seemed to be. John Allen Muhammad made a request for his last meal, one of the few choices left to him. It arrived shortly after 6. He firmly refused to have the details made public. But later, his former attorney, J. Wendell Gordon, revealed to the Associated Press that Muhammad ate chicken with red sauce and some cakes. Religion had once played a significant role in Muhammad's life. He had converted to Islam years earlier, deeply embracing his faith and even adopting the name Muhammad as a reflection of his beliefs. Yet in final hours, he refused the visit of a spiritual advisor. He wanted no part in the rituals of the death penalty. He had no interest in those things, his attorney later said. Minutes before 9 p.m, John Allen Muhammad was escorted into the execution chamber. Flanked by guards and dressed in denim, he stepped into the small room at Greensville Correctional Center, where the cross-shaped table awaited him. His steps wavered just slightly, like those who had once walked the streets of Washington D.C, moving cautiously, never in a straight line. 7 years ago, his attacks had paralyzed the region, forcing most people to stay indoors. But those who dared to step outside moved differently, bobbing and weaving as they walked, never knowing if they were in a killer's sights. Now Muhammad faced the same inevitability. No cover to take, no escape make. There was no ceremony, hesitation. The execution team moved with silent efficiency, securing his arms, legs and torso in thick leather and nylon straps. A methodical process practiced and precise. At exactly 9:00 p.m, the execution team stepped back from the gurney. The warden spoke. "Mr. Muhammad, do you have any last words?" Silence. No plea, no apology, defiance. He did not turn his head, did not lift eyes. He simply lay there unmoving, as if the question had never been asked. Prison spokesman Larry Traylor later told reporters he did not even look at us or acknowledge us. From the moment he entered the chamber to moment needle found his vein, Muhammad never uttered a single word. After signal from the warden, execution team administered a series of 3 chemicals into John Allen Muhammad's veins, the first rendering him unconscious, the next paralyzing his body, and the last stopping his heart. For a moment there was stillness, then a twitch, blink. He took 7 deep breaths, each one slower than the last, until there were none. At exactly 9:11 p.m, John Allen Muhammad was pronounced dead. The execution of John Allen Muhammad has been carried out under the laws of Commonwealth of Virginia. Death was pronounced at 9:11 p.m. The time didn't go unnoticed. Among those present, a murmur spread. Oh, the irony in that. One witness remarked he was pronounced dead at 9:11. Muhammad had never testified, never explained why he turned everyday moments into execution sites, why he gunned down strangers pumping gas, loading groceries, cutting grass. He took that answer with him, leaving behind only fear, devastation, and silence. Was this the random cruelty of a madman, or was there a deeper motive behind his actions? Share your thoughts in the comments and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one.